On the night of April 11th, 2023, in Raleigh, North Carolina, a 29-year-old woman named Camille Harper sent a text message to her older sister at exactly 10:14 p.m. It was short, calm, reassuring. The kind of message no one would ever think to screenshot. "I'm home now, doors locked, I'm okay." Her sister sent back a heart emoji and told her to get some rest. Camille never replied. Less than 2 hours later, police would walk into her apartment and find a scene that immediately told them something was wrong. A wine glass shattered near the kitchen counter. A lamp knocked over beside the couch. Her purse on the floor. One shoe in the hallway. Her phone lying face down near the bedroom door. And blood. Not a lot at first. Just enough to make officers stop. Just enough to tell them this was not random. This was the story of Camille Harper, a woman who tried to rebuild her life, who told people she was afraid, who thought distance and preparation would protect her, and the man prosecutors later said had been planning for that sense of safety to fail. Camille Harper was the kind of person people described with the same words over and over again: gentle, organized, thoughtful, steady. She was 29 years old, raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, the younger of two sisters in a close family that still spoke nearly every day. Her mother would later say, Camille had a quiet kind of strength. She wasn't loud, but she never stopped showing up for people. After graduating from North Carolina State University in 2017, Camille stayed in Raleigh and built a life she loved. She worked as a program coordinator for a nonprofit youth literacy organization, the kind of job that fit her perfectly. She loved routine. She kept color-coded calendars. She bought fresh flowers for her kitchen table. She listened to old R&B while cooking on weeknights. She was the friend who remembered birthdays and the daughter who never missed Sunday evening calls. To everyone around her, Camille seemed emotionally intelligent, careful, and grounded, which is why what happened next made so little sense to the people who loved her. In August of 2021, Camille met Adrian Wells, a 35-year-old renovation contractor, at a charity networking event in downtown Raleigh. He was charming in the kind of way that can feel disarming at first. Confident, funny, attentive, and incredibly good at remembering details. He sent coffee to her office after their second date. He remembered the name of her favorite bookstore. He once showed up with a replacement shelf bracket after she casually mentioned that one of the shelves in her apartment was loose. At first, it looked thoughtful, romantic even. The kind of effort people are told to appreciate. But later, when investigators looked back at the early months of their relationship, that attentiveness took on a darker shape. Adrian wanted to know everything: where she was, who she was with, why she didn't answer quickly, why her phone location was off, why a male coworker had texted after work hours. Camille brushed some of it off in the beginning. She told her friend Morgan Ellis, "He's intense, but he says it's because he's serious about me." That sentence would come back later, in interviews, in testimony, in the minds of the people who wished they had recognized what it really meant. By November of 2021, the red flags were becoming harder to ignore. Adrian criticized Camille's friends. He complained that her sister was too involved in her life. He questioned her work schedule. He once picked up her phone during dinner and scrolled through a text conversation with her cousin while saying absolutely nothing. When Camille confronted him, he apologized. Every time, he blamed trust issues. He blamed his childhood. He blamed a former girlfriend who had betrayed him. He promised to get help, and for short stretches, he seemed different. Calmer, more affectionate, less reactive. But by March of 2022, neighbors in Camille's apartment building had begun hearing arguments. Not constant, not explosive, but tense. Unquote. Controlled. One neighbor later told detectives, "He wasn't usually yelling. That's what made it worse. He sounded calm, and she sounded smaller." In June of 2022, Camille called police after Adrian allegedly showed up outside her office on Hillsborough Street and refused to leave the parking lot for nearly 40 minutes. Officers documented the incident, but by the time they arrived, Adrian had already gone. At the time, it seemed like harassment. Later, prosecutors would call it an early warning. In September of 2022, Camille ended the relationship. She told her older sister Nina, "I feel like I'm disappearing around him." That was the phrase her family would repeat for months afterward. Disappearing. After the breakup, Camille did what so many victims are told to do. She changed her locks. She blocked his number. She stopped posting her location online. She told her coworkers not to share her schedule. She started parking in different places. She bought a door brace. And most importantly, she started saving everything. Every voicemail, every screenshot, every email from new addresses, every note left under her windshield wiper. Because Adrian didn't let go. He adapted. He called from blocked numbers. He created new email accounts. He left handwritten notes on her car. He showed up in places she never told him she would be. One message read, "You can block me, but you can't erase what we are." Another said, "You act like I'm dangerous. That should tell you something." Camille saved them all. That decision would later become one of the strongest pieces of evidence in the case. On April 11, 2023, Camille left work at 5:37 p.m. Security footage showed her walking out of her office carrying a canvas tote bag and a folder of paperwork she planned to finish at home. At 6:03 p.m., she stopped at a neighborhood grocery store on Wake Forest Road, where records later confirmed she bought pasta, garlic bread, sparkling water, and a bouquet of white tulips. At 6:42 p.m., she called her mother on the drive home. They talked about ordinary things, Easter leftovers, a cousin's new baby, whether Camille would visit that weekend. Her mother later said, "She sounded normal, tired, but normal. That's what breaks me." She sounded like she believed she was safe. At 8:51 p.m., Camille texted Morgan, "I think I saw Adrian's truck near the complex." Morgan replied immediately, "Call police. Right now." Camille answered, "Might be nothing. I'm staying in." At 10:14 p.m., she sent Nina that final message, "I'm home now. Doors locked. I'm okay." At 11:58 p.m., a downstairs neighbor called 911 after hearing a crash, then what sounded like hurried footsteps overhead, and then sudden silence. Officers arrived at 12:06 a.m. When police entered Camille's apartment, the signs of a struggle were immediate. A broken wine glass near the kitchen counter, a lamp knocked over beside the couch, a dining chair tipped sideways, her phone on the floor near the hallway, one of Camille's earrings near the bedroom door, and blood evidence indicating that a violent confrontation had taken place inside the apartment. Officers quickly cleared the rooms. Camille was found inside the residence. Authorities later confirmed that she had been attacked after someone gained access to the apartment and that investigators believed she fought hard to defend herself. Out of respect for Camille and her family, police did not release further graphic details. Detective Rowan Pierce later told reporters, "This was targeted. It was personal, and very early on, we believed the offender knew the victim well." At first, Adrian Wells was one of several possible persons of interest, but the evidence narrowed quickly. Surveillance footage from a nearby parking lot showed a dark pickup matching Adrian's truck entering the block at 9:27 p.m. Phone data placed his device near Camille's building shortly before her final text. Then investigators found the detail that changed everything. Adrian still had access. Months earlier, while they were still dating, Camille had once given him a spare key while she was out of town. She had changed the locks after the breakup, but forensic examination of the door hardware suggested someone had tampered with the latch mechanism days before the attack, weakening the strike plate and making forced entry appear less obvious. That detail stunned detectives because it pointed to planning, not rage, planning. When police searched Adrian's phone and laptop, the search history painted an even darker picture. In the weeks before Camille's death, Adrian had searched phrases like, "How long before missed texts? Trigger welfare check. Can deleted voicemails be recovered? Apartment hallway camera blind spots. And cash prepaid phone. No ID." Then came the revelation no one in Camille's family had ever heard before. In 2018, while living in Knoxville, Tennessee, Adrian had been named in a protective order filed by a former girlfriend named Leah Monroe, who accused him of monitoring her movements, entering her apartment without permission, and threatening to make sure she never felt safe again after she tried to leave. The order eventually expired. The case faded, and Camille never knew. Adrian Wells was arrested on April 14, 2023 at 2:11 a.m. in a motel outside Columbia, South Carolina, nearly 190 miles from Raleigh. Inside his room, officers found disposable gloves, a prepaid phone, Camille's spare mailbox key, printed photos from her social media, and handwritten notes listing her work hours and the stores she frequented. When questioned, Adrian told detectives, "I just wanted to talk. She made me out to be someone I'm not." But the evidence said otherwise. The trial began on January 8, 2024, in Wake County Superior Court. Prosecutors argued Adrian had stalked Camille for months, tampered with her apartment door, planned the attack, and used the trust she once had in him as a weapon long after she ended the relationship. The defense argued the confrontation escalated unexpectedly and insisted there was no proof of long-term planning. Then prosecutors played Camille's saved voicemails. In one, Adrian whispered, "You don't get to decide, I'm gone." In another, his voice was colder. "If you keep shutting me out, I'll find another way in." The courtroom went silent. Camille's sister Nina testified through tears, saying, "She did everything people tell women to do. She documented. She changed the locks. She told people she was afraid. She saved the messages. She asked for help, and he still found a way to make her home unsafe." On January 26, 2024, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Adrian Wells guilty of first-degree murder, stalking, resulting in death, burglary, and tampering with evidence. At sentencing on February 22, 2024, Judge Marjorie Keene said, "This was not a crime of heartbreak. It was a crime of control." The defendant believed continued access to the victim was his right. It was not. Adrian Wells was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But Camille's story did not end in that courtroom. In 2025, her family launched the Camille Harper Initiative, an advocacy effort focused on stalking awareness, nonprofit workplace safety planning, and emergency support for people leaving coercive relationships. Her former office implemented a confidential threat reporting system for employees experiencing harassment. Her sister Nina now speaks publicly about coercive control and the danger of dismissing what seem like small warning signs. And every year on April 11th, Camille's family places white tulips beneath her framed graduation photo and says the same words. He does not get the last word. Cases like Camille's force us to face a painful truth. Abuse does not always begin with violence. Sometimes it begins with attention, with intensity, with someone who seems thoughtful, protective, helpful, until protection becomes monitoring, and monitoring becomes control. And sometimes the most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is the moment someone finally tries to leave. If you recognized warning signs in this story, control disguised as love, surveillance disguised as care, isolation disguised as concern, take those patterns seriously. They matter. And if Camille's story stayed with you, comment below with one word that describes how you feel after hearing what happened. If you believe victims deserve to be remembered with truth, empathy, and respect, like this video, subscribe to Evidence Uncovered, turn on notifications, and help us keep these stories from being forgotten. Because some people try to bury the truth, but here we uncover it.